It all started out with a man looking to colonize in Texas. This man was Moses Austin. He had a dream of starting a colony in Spanish Texas. In 1821, the Spanish government granted him with a huge piece of land to make his dreams come true. When he died, his son Stephen F. Austin took over his father's dreams. When he arrived in Texas, Mexico had declared independence from Spain, so Texas was now part of Mexico. But the Mexican officials still let him start a colony under certain conditions. All things were good in Texas for many years, and then all went downhill. Mexico had never said he had to choose only the best hardworking citizens, and those new settlers would have to become Mexican citizens and join the Catholic Church. He agreed with these rules. By 1827, he had found about 300 families to come with him to Texas and colonize. The man who moved there told their families about how good the land was for crops like cotton, so the families told the other families. About 25,000 people traveled to Texas. Many of the Texans were very unhappy with the Mexican rules. Two of the rules were that all the documents were in Spanish, and that they had to take orders from Mexico and officials. The Taínos, who were the first ones that lived in Texas first, the Taínos had complaints about the new settlers, like the settlers had very little respect for Mexican culture. The Taínos were also mad that they came in without the Mexican government's permission. Once the complaints got to the Mexican government, they closed Texas and sent troops to enforce the immigration law. Settlers were very unhappy with this. A group of people led by William Travis began calling for a revolution. Other groups just asked to reopen Texas to immigration and to make it a separate Mexican state. This group was led by Stephen F. Austin. Austin traveled to Mexico and presented Texans' demands to the head of the Mexican government. The general was Antonio Lopez. Antonio was a power-hungry dictator. This man said, "If I were God, I wish to be more." He did not listen to Austin or bargain with him. He just tossed him into jail. After Austin was let go in 1835, Texas rose trying to crush the rebels. Santa Anna fought back. They marched north with some 6,000 troops. When most of Santa Anna's army reached San Antonio in 1836, the Texans had taken over the old missionary known as the Alamo. The brave men who defended the Alamo watched as Santa Anna's troops marched towards them with black flags. They meant expect no mercy. The general of Santa Anna army demanded the Texans surrender. Travis replied with a single cannon shot. So began the Texas War of Independence. 90 minutes went past. It was all over. Everyone in the Alamo defenders were dead. If there were any survivors, the Santa Anna army was told to kill them on the spot. This decision enraged the Texans. Sam Houston, the commander of the Texas Revolutionary Army, had retreated eastward as Santa Anna marched onward. Sam's hopes was to draw Santa Anna deeper into Texas, in hope of them losing troops. This plan worked brilliantly. In April, Santa Anna caught up with Houston near the San Jacinto River. Santa Anna was planning for the Texans to attack at Draw, so Santa Anna stayed up all night with no sleep. Finally, the general relaxed and took a nap in his tent. Later that day, Houston's troops had a surprise attack, the men all yelling, "Remember the Alamo!" The Texans overran the Mexican government. Antonio Lopez ran, but he captured the next day. The exchange for his freedom, he ordered all his remaining troops out of Texas. The Texas War of Independence had been won, but Mexico was not fully accepted except the loss of its territory.